Yo, what's up? It's me again. I'm just calling to make sure we're still good for the shoot today. I'm still here. I know it's like 2 hours late, but you know, I'm still down for whenever you make it or whatever. Yeah, just let me know when. Let me know when you. Actually, bro, let's just reschedule this. I'll be free next week. We could just do this some other time, bro.
Sorry about that. I hadn't eaten all day, like all day. I didn't K-word him though. I just put his blood in a little blood bag so I can have for later. He got his memory wiped. He's perfectly fine. Anyways, I am not a horror fan, but I thought that it would be cool if I made the next film recreations episode a Halloween themed one since Halloween is around the corner. I wanted this to come out way sooner, but I had gotten sick in the first week of October and yeah, but we are finally here and I hope you enjoy it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to clean up.
I had the most terrible vision.
That's splendid.
No, it was about your Christmas. There was smoke and fire.
That's not my Christmas.
The first piece I'll be recreating is Sally's dress from The Nightmare Before Christmas. Sally wears this stitched up dress that Dr. Finkelstein most likely made for her throughout the entire movie, and I thought it would be perfect for a Halloween themed episode. The dress is filled with many different designs like swirls, stripes, checkered prints, and patches, which gives it a nice gritty feel. It was a bit hard to see the back of the dress, but after taking my screenshots and looking around online at photos from Sally from Kingdom Hearts and fan art, I decided to try to make it accurate but also let myself do what I want with the back since it is majority of the time covered by Sally's hair. Here is all of the yarn that I'm thinking I'm going to use somewhat for Sally's dress. The majority of it I already had in my closet, and then I just filled in the gaps of what I needed for the dress. I couldn't get any like screenshots of her just standing still with the dress, so I looked up a quick little thing of the dress so I can see exactly all the cuts and everything, and then I just compared the colors and everything, and then I made this little diagram thingy of all the different pieces that I would need for the front side and for the back side. The back side I'm still working on exactly because it's harder to see since she has long hair that covers the back. So I've been kind of eyeing this dress right here, but I'm still trying to do it to where I can manipulate it to how I want it to be and not directly just copying this dress. But basically, I broke it down because it's a very intimidating project and I wanted to make sure that I'll be able to do it correctly the way that I want it to come out, but also like not stress out over the fact that it's such an intimidating project. I broke it down based off of like the top half and then the bottom half. So I think I'm first gonna start by making the top like a vest, but starting right here and then attaching the yarn right there and then making a vest with a v-neck. And then I made a little like breakdown of what I'm gonna do exactly. So like what I just said, I'm gonna make this section first, and then after that section is done, I'm gonna go ahead and make this part right here. This was the most challenging part to figure out, but what I basically thought what I do is in this section right here, I'm gonna work this little thing until I get to the bottom of this side of the front panel, and then I'm gonna make one long little strip, but then that strip gradually adds more black on each row. It's so hard to explain, but I'm gonna try my best. And then that will get attached like this. And then I don't think I'll be able to make the fabric or the knitting in crochet like go diagonal like that. So what I was thinking was doing something where I just gradually increase on one side so it looks like it's getting longer instead of making like a diagonal. And that way it'll still be a dress and it'll still have the elements of the dress that Sally's wearing, but it's just going to be constructed a little bit different. But all this is just the front side. I still have to work on figuring out what I'm going to do on the back, but I feel like for the back I'm just going to make everything square and basic because I feel like the focal point is more on the front. But I did see like a little patch in the movie when I was taking my screenshots, so I am going to make sure that I have like any tiny details that the movie does show. And I really hope this comes out. I'm nervous to start, but I think breaking it down made it easier for myself, and so I'm just gonna go ahead and start with this part and not think about anything else until I finish that. The next day, I finally got started with Sally's dress, starting with the top section. I used my argyle sweater measurements from my brown crochet video as reference, but divided it by 2 since I was starting with one side first. So I chained 28 and began working a swirly graph that I found on Pinterest. Once I got to row 17, I attached my mustard yellow color to the last stitch and chained 28 with it, then worked a normal row until I got to the middle of the panel. At the middle of the panel, I switched to my graph colors and continued working the graph as normal. Doing this makes the split pattern that is relatively the same as Sally's dress. Once I got to row 41, I started working on the v-neck section of the top the same way I did the argyle sweater vest, which was decreasing in the middle for 7 rows. Then for 15 rows, starting on row 48, I worked the shoulders normally with no decreases until I reached row 59. This is what the front panel is looking like so far. It's completely done, so now I'm just gonna go ahead and work on the back. What I decided to do for the back is create a piece just like this. The only difference is it's gonna be the full width that this would be like right here. It's gonna be the length of the swirls part, so it's gonna connect from there to there and go all the way up. So it's just gonna be a basic square. This part of Sally's dress is not this color, but I personally just want to do that color just because I want to. So I am going to be using these 2 colors. I'm first going to start with black for the first row, just to give it like the indicator that it's stitched together, like how this is when I just switched the black in the middle instead of doing this part and then sewing it together and stuff. So I'm going to do the same thing for the other side, and then like I said, it's just going to be a square. Getting started with the back panel, I chained 51 and attached my beige color first and worked until I reached the middle, where I then switched to my ginger color. For the ginger section, I went ahead and did 4 stitches with ginger and then switched to black for 1 stitch before switching back to ginger just to make the little stripes that are shown on the piece. I did this all the way up and then the back panel was complete. For the arms, I chained 20 and made a total of 49 rows. For this arm in particular, I made sure to add a streak of the black and then a streak of the ginger color every 4th and 5th row so I can add the little details that was on Sally's arms. Then for the other arm, I just did the entire thing in one solid color. I already attached the shoulders together to see how the top was fitting, and after being okay with it, I went ahead and attached the arms. To attach the arms, I just lined the panels up and then slip stitched them together, and once they were attached, I folded the top in half to slip stitch the sides closed. Here is what the dress is looking like so far. When I finished it, it looked really long, but then I put it on and it's literally perfect. So now I just have to do that little section that looks like this part in the back, but just in the front. And then I have to do the hip part. And I'm thinking of not doing any increases for my hips since I don't really have hips anyway. I'll probably maybe increase a little bit right here, but when the dress is on Sally, it's kind of like form-fitting, so I'm thinking that I won't end up doing any increases and then just have it end where it should end. But so far, I'm really happy with how it's coming out. For the next part of the top, I first attached my black yarn and did one row of the black. Then I started the same pattern with the ginger and black for the stripes until it reached the same length as the swirl section. I then tied off, sewed the two together on the side, and then attached my black at the end of the swirl side and crocheted down until the stitch after the middle stitch before working the ginger and black striped pattern. On every third row, I gradually added more black than the stripe section to make it seem like it's getting smaller, like on Sally's actual dress. After 20 rows, I attached my red yarn to begin the blue and red striped section of the dress. I worked with the red for 10 rows, then switched to the blue for 10 rows, repeating this until the 40th stitch. Then for the rest of the row, I only worked in black. I repeated this back and forth until row 11, where I attached my pink color to the last 3 stitches of the black section. Then, as I created rows, I gradually increased the pink section, which slowly got rid of the black section. At the same time, on row 17, I also slowly added another pink section to the other side, which slowly got rid of the blue and red striped section. So right here, I have this whole striped section done, and I've also added the 2 pink parts that are on the sides of her dress. And I'm now going to only work from here to here. And then later on, I'm going to finish this side separately because I want to add a little decrease to make it look like it's ripped on the bottom. But I am going to work from here to here all the way down and then gradually decrease so that it can be long on one side, and then eventually do decreases to make it look like it's ripped. And then I also bought a fabric marker, and then I'm gonna like draw on these parts to make it look more accurate to the dress, as well as make that little patch probably like right here. But so far the dress is coming out pretty good. I finished the bottom section and then attached the pink back to the part where I skipped to do decreases on both sides until it was looking like a little pointy section, and then the front of the dress was complete. For the back of the dress, I attached my black yarn to the bottom where it stopped and just crocheted 18 rows with the black. Once I reached row 19, I worked with the black until the middle stitch and then added my red color for 12 stitches and then navy for 12 stitches. I repeated this, making rows with all 3 colors until row 30. On row 31, I took my ginger color and switched to that instead of the blue and red, and gradually worked more ginger than black to get rid of some of the black. Once I reached row 46, I added my blue yarn until the middle and then added my mustard yellow in the middle to replace the black and the ginger yarn, and worked until I reached the same length as the front. While doing this, I watched The Nightmare Before Christmas to verify if I made any mistakes, and let's just say there are a few. Before slip stitching the sides together, I took the time to make 2 patches, one for the front with my ginger color and the other for the back with my pink that I'll later draw swirls on. Once those patches were complete, I sewed them onto the appropriate places on the dress. The last thing to do was the little stitches around the dress to make it look like it was patched together. I took my darning needle and used some black yarn and just sewed in and out around different edgings of the dress. I made sure not to do it in a specific way so that it could look like it was actually stitched together. I also made these round circles that were easy to make but really annoying to sew onto the dress. It wasn't super annoying, but it was like, okay, when is this over type annoying, if that makes sense. The last thing I did was take my fabric marker and draw the extra details that I honestly didn't feel like crocheting. The marker was okay with the yarn, but I did have to draw over the lines a bunch of times to make them more visible. But after that, the dress was complete. Okay guys, so I didn't want to paint my entire body blue, so just pretend that I'm blue. I'm also gonna have a video right here to show you the full outfit because I can't show you. But this is Sally's dress. This was probably the most stressful piece in this entire video, but I was able to complete it and I'm really happy with how it turned out. Like you saw in the video, I broke everything down into parts. So I first did this front part as if I was only doing a top, and then I did the sleeves and also the back, and then I did the bottom half, which was the skirt and everything. I was so intimidated by this project, but then once I actually got started with it, I finished this in 2 days. 2 days. So it was actually really easy, but looking at it, I was like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna do this? I am so stressed. But I was able to get it done. I did mess up on some parts. Like, I think this part is actually supposed to go right here, And then, so this was okay. This came out good. And then the marker was kind of hard to use because this isn't like fabric or anything. And then for this patch right here, the swirls did not come out at all. So I messed up on those aspects. However, it still is nice and I'm happy with it.
Illinois? And Dustin's MIA too? I mean, this can't be a coincidence.
What does it matter? The bottom line is, they're not here. It's up to us.
The next piece in this episode is a blanket that's located at Mike Wheeler's house in Stranger Things Season 3. For the blanket, it took a bit of time to figure out the color scheme, especially the beginning colors, but after counting the rows that I could, I noticed a pattern with the amount of rows in the blanket. They tended to repeat the numbers like 3 rows of white, then 10 rows of red, then 3 rows of white again, as an example. So I wrote out this little cheat sheet to use to know how many rows I needed to do with each color. Once I had that, making the blanket was a breeze. For the blanket, I decided to buy these giant skeins of black, red, and white, and also some extra skeins just in case. I also used a 5mm hook. To start the blanket, I first chained 4 and slip stitched into the first stitch of the row, which joins it in the round. After chaining 2, I worked 2 double crochets into the middle stitch of the circle I just created. The chain always counts as a stitch. After the 2 double crochets, I chained 2 and worked 3 more double crochets into the same space. After, I chained 2 and repeated working 3 double crochets into the space. After that, I again chained 2 and created 3 more double crochets into the space for a total of 4 rows of double crochet. To end the first row, I slip stitched into the first stitch of the row, then slip stitched down into each stitch until I reached the chain space. In the chain space, I slip stitched and then chained 2, which starts the second row. For the second row, I added 2 double crochets into the space. I then chained 2 and added 3 more double crochets into the same space. This creates a little corner section for the square. In the middle space, I worked 3 double crochets, a chain 2, and 3 more double crochets before moving on to the next space. In the next 2 spaces, I repeated the action of 3 double crochets, a chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. At the end, I slip stitched into the first stitch of the row, which ends the row. For the third row, I slip stitched until the gap and then I chained 2. I then worked 2 more double crochets into the space before chaining 2 and adding 3 more double crochets in the same space. For this row until the last row of the square, there will be middle gaps which only require 3 double crochets into the gap. After, there'll be the corner spaces in which I do 3 double crochets, a chain 2, and 3 more double crochets before moving into the middle gaps again. At the end of the row, I slip stitched into the first stitch of the row, then slip stitched down into the corner space. I made 3 more rows of the red before switching to the next color, which is white. To switch colors, all I did was first slip stitched until I got to the side gap. I then chained 1 with the red and cut off a tail. In the same gap, I took my white yarn and created a chain of 2 in the gap and went ahead and started working on the next row, making sure to crochet over the tails of the red and white so that they're weaved in and I won't have to do it later. I worked on the next set of colors on the blanket while watching random YouTube videos and was enjoying how easy the project was. It's literally just one big square, so there was no challenge whatsoever, which was pretty nice. Hello. So far I've been working on the Stranger Things blanket, and this is actually the first time I'm starting to write down how many hours I've been working on a project. So far I've finished 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections of color. I don't know how many rows it is. I haven't added all the rows together, but for these 5 sections it took 5 hours to do. 6 hours. It took 6 hours to finish all of this so far. This is all I'm gonna do tonight because I want to take a little break. But yeah, it's going pretty straightforward. Just create 3 double crochets into each space, and then in the corners create 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochet, and on and on and on, and it gets bigger and bigger. The real struggle with this blanket though is the fact that it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, to where one row is probably going to take like 10 minutes, and then 15 minutes, and then eventually 20 minutes just to do one row. So I was starting to feel that a little bit when I did this red section right here, and I'm definitely going to feel it probably like in 3 more color sections, but it's coming out nice. I know it's going to be a huge blanket, and I'm going to cherish it very, very much when it's done. But yeah, I just wanted to show my progress so far. It has been a day since I last recorded, but I went ahead and did more sections for the blanket. I want to show you how big it is so far. It's gotten huge, and I think I have like 3 more sections to do. I know I have to do 6 rows of black, and then some rows with white, and then black again, which is like, oh my gosh, I'm almost done. But at the same time, I've gotten to the point where, like yesterday, I timed how long it took me to do one row, and it said 23 minutes. And so that's just gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger with each row that I do. So it's probably gonna take me the rest of the day to finish this blanket, but I am gonna finish it today, which I'm really happy about. Okay, here is the Stranger Things blanket in all its glory. It's a really, really, really big blanket, so I'm only showing it folded, but I'll have like a little clip where it's like fully out. But this blanket is really huge. It's very easy to do, but it gets really big. So if you are someone like me that really likes huge blankets that are warm and easy to make, then this project is definitely for you. Like I said, in the process of making it, once I got towards like around these parts, it started to get hard. Like it took around probably 20 to 30 minutes to do one row at that point. But this is a great long-term project if you just want something to do. It's very warm and fun to cuddle with on the couch. And yeah, there were so many blankets to choose from in the show, but this one stood out the most to me, and I'm really glad that I made it. Also, since this is a blanket, I tried to put on like a little 80s themed outfit with a jacket that kind of resembles the one Max was wearing in season 4, even though this one was from season 3. But yeah, I tried. And I have my little mom jeans on and stuff. But anyway, definitely, if you want to make anything from this video, I would say make this blanket. Like, I've been using it every single day on the couch, and it's great. So yeah.
Come to me, Lisa.
Jesse, I know you're in there. Stop him!
No, Jesse's dead.
The last piece in this video is Freddy Kreuger's sweater from Nightmare on Elm Street. There's a ton of Freddy Kreuger movies, so I'm just gonna do his general sweater design. Freddy's sweater consists of green and red stripes, both of which are muted in tone, so it's more of a burgundy red and an olive green. There's also rips in the ribbings of the sweater, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna rip up the sweater at the end or not. It would be more accurate, but I'm not sure if I'd want to wear it like that. For Freddy Kreuger's sweater, I purchased these 2 colors. I think the colors are really pretty. The only thing is I bought a weight 5 chunky yarn because at first I was thinking, well, it's gonna be winter time soon. I can make a chunky sweater, and then I kind of am thinking about making the sweater a cropped sweater. But then I kind of started, like before I started recording, I was playing around with the yarn and I cast it on and did a couple rows, and I realized that I kind of want to just stick to making it exactly like the movie. And so I took it apart, went back to the store, and I got weight for yarn that I tried to make almost the same exact colors as the other ones. My talking abilities right now is terrible, but I think I did a pretty good job. This is a better color than this one, but both of the burgundies are perfect, and this is it being different is not that big of a deal. So I am gonna go ahead and get started. I first started the front and back panels with a long tail cast on of 70 with the burgundy yarn, and then made 14 rows of knit 1 purl 1 for the bottom ribbing. After the 14 rows, I added my green color and began working stockinette stitches for the body of the sweater, which is knitting every stitch on the right side of the project and then purling every stitch on the wrong side of the project. I did this for a total of 14 rows as well. Here is what the sweater is looking like so far, with 14 rows of ribbing and then 14 rows of stockinette stitch with the green. And I'm kind of working on both the front and the back panels at the same time. So after 14 rows, I go ahead and switch to the red for 14 rows, and I just am gonna do that back and forth until I like the length. I'm not sure how many times at the moment, since, you know, I'm still working on it. I'm still trying to debate if I want it to be a cropped sweater or not, but most likely with how many stripes that's actually on his sweater, I think I'm just gonna make it a regular regular sized sweater, and then go ahead and do the shoulders once I get there and then attach them together. Okay, so I just finished another set of the color when I laid this on top of this, and I was like, I wonder why it's looking pretty small. And so I counted this and I was like, okay, I did a cast on of 70, and I counted this one, and apparently I did a cast on of 80. And then in the notes that I write down my cast-ons and my rows and all that stuff, apparently I didn't update it. So I was gonna do 70 for the chunky yarn, but because I changed to this, I did a cast-on of 80, but I didn't write it down. So now I have to start over this one. It's really annoying because I think I just spent like 2 hours doing this, and now I just have to take it apart and start over. But hey, what is a project without mistakes? So yeah. So unfortunately, I took the entire panel off the needles and started over the panel. You know what's wild? I felt it in me that something was wrong with this panel that I was doing, and I just couldn't put my finger on it, and bam, what do you know? So I guess the lesson here is to write down everything you do and trust your gut. Here is what the sweater is looking like so far. I finished all of the color sections that I'm gonna do before I show you how I do the shoulder section. So it's a total of 5 color sections, not including the ribbing. And then for the last color section, I just did 12 rows. And then on the 13th row, I'm gonna start the shoulder sections, or separating the shoulder sections. And then from row 14 to the next color section, I'm gonna go ahead and do the decreases. So I casted on 80 for the front and back panels. So for my specific neck measurements, I'm gonna knit 33 and then cast off 14 and then knit 33 again. And doing that separates the shoulders and cuts off the little neck area. So I first knitted 33 stitches. Once I finished with the 33 stitches, I began doing cast-offs in the middle, which I did for 14 stitches. After those cast-offs, I went ahead and knit the last 33 stitches, in which one of them was already on my needle from the last cast-off. After the knit 33 at the end, I turned my work and began the last row of the green, which is also the first row of decreases. I purled the row normally until I reached the last 2 stitches, where I purled them together, which makes a decrease. I then turned my work and attached my red color for the last color section of the row. I attached the red in the first 2 stitches, which adds the color while also adding another decrease. I then worked the row normally. I repeated this, decreasing only in the middle part of the sweater for a total of 8 rows, and continued knitting with the red regularly for a total of 10 rows. I just finished the first part of the shoulder, which was just 8 rows of decreases, and then I did 2 rows of regular knit and purl stockinette, and then cast it off. And now all I'm going to do for this side is the exact same thing, and then I can go ahead and attach both the front and the back panels together to make the body of the sweater. Once both the front and back panels were done, I sewed the shoulders together to attach them. I then went ahead and attached my needles to the collar and added a red collar with knit and purl stitches for a total of 7 rows before casting off. The last thing I had to do was create and attach the sleeves. For the sleeves, I first casted on 38 and worked 7 rows with the red color. I then began to stockinette stitch with the same red, making sure to increase on every 4th stitch on the knit side. On the purl side, I just purled normally. I repeated this for a total of 3 knit sides, which gave me 69 stitches on my needle. After having a total of 14 rows when counting the ribbing, I switched to my green color and worked stockinette stitch with green for 14 rows before switching back to my red. I worked on the sleeves while watching a ton of booktube videos, and once I was done with them, I went ahead and attached the sleeves to the sweater of the body. Then the sweater was complete. Okay, anyway, this is the last piece that I have in this video, which is the Freddy Kreuger sweater. I really was thinking if I should do the rips in the sleeves and in the bottom and stuff, but I don't really like distressed things most of the time, and when I make things, I would like to make them to the point where I know I would rewear it, and I would wear this. Like if I want to do a Halloween costume for next year, or if this just fits one of the vibes for any of my outfits, then I can just throw it on. But I feel like if it was distressed, I'd be like, this is probably strictly for Halloween type of things. But here it is. I'm really happy with how it came out. I need to start remembering to change my needles when I do the bottom ribbing so that it won't have this little lump here. I didn't block this because it's 100% acrylic, and I know if I just throw it in the washing machine it would flatten it out, so I'm sure it'll be fine around that time. But this is a cute little Freddy Kreuger outfit made just for you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed all of the projects here. Sorry that it didn't come out earlier in case you wanted to do any of these for Halloween. I mean, I think I gave you a little bit of time. If you're like a really fast worker, then you can probably do this, but if not, then it's okay. Maybe next year. But yeah, again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.